So next unit we are going to work on with you guys is going to be over timelines. This will not take us very long at all. I'm thinking at most it'll take us maybe 2 days to get through the study guide. So we'll probably be taking our test over this, I'd say probably next Tuesday. I know that sounds really quick, but I mean if you're looking at your study guide, there's only 10 terms on it. There's just not a whole lot to this unit. But it's something that we do need to cover because the next several units that we go through are all ancient civilizations. So it's important to kind of see how far back we're talking as far as how long ago these people lived and that kind of stuff. So as we kind of go through this, like I said, it's going to feel like we're going pretty quick. There's just not a whole lot to it. So with timelines, it's just a convenient way to show how time is measured. Now, we will measure time in a lot of different ways, okay, from seconds to minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, years. But when we talk historically, we're usually breaking time into much larger chunks. Those two large chunks are usually either decades or centuries. A decade is just a time period that spans 10 years, and a century is a period of 100 years, or 10 decades. Now, when we deal with these chunks of time, and we try to organize them, chronological order is very important. Chronological order is simply the order in which events take place. So if I was going to ask you, hey, tell me about your typical day. Give me a day in the life of Keaton. Okay, he's probably not going to start with, well, I had steak for dinner, and then I brushed my teeth before I went to school, and I took a test in the afternoon, then I got on the school bus, blah, 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 blah. He's not going to jump all around the day. He's going to give me that story in chronological order. He's going to start at the beginning of his day in the morning and walk me through it all the way up until current time. Okay, that's chronological order. But we use timelines to show these events. That timeline is the tool that we map all these out so that we can look at this timeline, see when events happened compared to other things that happened during that same time period. But when we look at things on a timeline, there are two big systems that we use. The first one is the AD and BC system. Now, BC stands for before Christ, and AD, it's actually a Latin term. Anno Domini is how you pronounce it. Anno Domini. That is Latin for in the year of our Lord. Now, most people think that AD stands for after death. I bet if you go through the building and ask every single adult in the building, over half of them will say after death. That's just what most people think it stands for. If you go home and ask your parents, hey, what's AD stand for? I'll bet you they say after death. Okay, that's a very common misunderstanding. But AD, like I said, it's that Latin term for in the year of our Lord. Now, with those two systems, that BC and AD, do you notice any problem with those that some people might have? Before Christ and in the year of our Lord. Kinda. They both have what attached with them? Yeah, Christ or a religion attached to him. Well, is Christianity the only religion in the world? No. Okay, there's a lot of other religions out there. So because of that, there is a second naming system that we use. We'll come back to this, I promise. So to kind of get around that religious meeting, the second system is Common Era, and before Common Era. Yeah, they got really creative with that, didn't they? Now notice, guys, on your study guide, you've got, it's a little bit out of order, it goes 8, 7, 8, 7. So since there's two number 8s here, you write both of those things on number 8 for your study guide, and you write both of those things for number 7 on your study guide. Now here's where it's going to get a little bit confusing with a little bit of an alphabet soup here. So I'll try to say this as slow as I can to not confuse you. So because BC, before Christ, and AD, in the year of our Lord, have religious meanings, there are some people who like to use a different system. That other system is what's called Common Era, or CE, and before Common Era, BCE. So BC is the exact same as BCE. So before Christ is the same as before Common Era, and Anno Domini, in the year of our Lord, is the same as CE, or Common Era. Okay, they're the exact same time periods. The CE and BCE version just tries to get rid of the religious naming to it. Okay, it still refers to the same period of time, it just goes by a different name. I know that's confusing, but if you kind of think about it and remember what each one of them stand for, it kind of helps clear them up a little bit. So if we're going to look at them on a timeline, you've got AD 1, okay, so birth of Christ. And again, that would be CE 1 also, it just doesn't have that religious connotation with it. So for AD, it starts at AD 1 and it is always going to be counting up. Okay, so our current year is 2020 AD. Or you can say our current year is 2020 CE. It's the exact same. From that event, okay, it counts up, but it goes in the other direction. So, for example, if we want to talk about the pyramids being built in ancient Egypt, that'd be here about 2500 BC. All right, well, 2500 BCE, it's 2020 AD now, so that is 4,520 years ago is when that would have occurred. So here's kind of a different way to illustrate that or look at it. So for your BCs and your BCE, your before Christ and before Common Era, remember they're the exact same time period, you can go as far back through history as you want. Okay, if you want to go back to the dinosaurs, you're talking millions of years ago BC. And it starts counting down. All right, it counts down to that 1 AD. For Anno Domini, or in the year of our Lord, and CE, or Common Era, it's constantly going to be counting up from 1 AD. All right, so next year will be 2021, 2022, 2023. All right, so they kind of go in opposite directions there. All right, now these last two things are just the two different styles or types of timelines that we have. So a single tier, it only shows one civilization or one group of events. So for example, if you're talking about ancient Egypt, all right, that's the only civilization it's going to show on that timeline, or that one group of people it's going to refer to. A multiple tier timeline simply shows two or more. They're usually used to compare events that occur during a chunk of time that involve multiple civilizations. So for example, like this one here has Greece and Rome on it, but it only has a single tier. Okay, it puts both of them on one timeline. This multiple tier one, and this one's even color coded, so it shows you Mesopotamia up here at the top, Egypt below it, Indus River Valley, ancient China, the Aegeans, the Greeks, so on and so forth. So this used to compare, the overlap of when different groups of people either lived or did certain things. So your single tier and your multiple tier, you're going to see both of them. I mean, it's pretty easy when, your single tier, like I said, usually only shows one group of people or one civilization, and then a multiple tier usually shows multiple.